Hi, I'm Sophie, and today's story, it's about family, pride, and that painful moment when you realize the people closest to you might not actually see your worth. This is the story of Erin and how a silver bracelet changed everything. It all started on a chilly Saturday evening in March. Erin stood by her kitchen counter, staring down at a small velvet box in her hand. Inside it sat a simple, elegant silver bracelet with a tiny charm in the shape of the letter A, her sister Amber's initial. The bracelet had cost Erin exactly $98.75. She'd kept it just under the $100 gift limit their family had agreed on last Christmas. Her dad had suggested it while they were all gathered around the tree. "Let's keep it simple for a while," he'd said. "No more extravagant gifts. We could all use that money for practical things." Everyone nodded. Amber, who'd been saving for a new car, even said, "That's a relief." Their mom added that it would make the holidays less stressful. Erin, who had been saving every spare dollar for a down payment on her own place, silently celebrated. She'd been renting for years and was ready to have a place of her own. The agreement was perfect. But what she hadn't told anyone, not her parents, not even Amber, was that she had quietly started apartment hunting. She wanted it to be a surprise when the right moment came. Now, 2 months later, she was headed to her parents' house for Amber's birthday celebration. She wrapped the bracelet box in teal paper, Amber's favorite color, and tucked it into her purse. Her own birthday had been a quiet affair not long ago. Amber had given her a scarf, maybe $40 tops. Her parents pooled together for a set of ceramic mugs and some gourmet coffee. All practical, all under budget. Erin had been genuinely grateful. As she pulled into her parents' driveway in the suburbs, a quick 30-minute drive from her city apartment, she saw cars lining both sides of the street. Amber had always been the social one. "Erin?" Her mom greeted her with a warm hug at the door, the scent of her signature floral perfume mixing with whatever was simmering on the stove. "Amber's been asking when you'd get here." Across the room, Amber beamed. At 29, she was effortlessly put together. Blonde curls, perfect makeup, a glass of red wine in hand. She waved her over like a movie star at a dinner party. Erin smiled back, but there was always a subtle tension between them, an unspoken competition no one dared acknowledge. "The birthday girl wants to open presents before dinner," their mom called out. Everyone gathered in the living room. Amber sat cross-legged on the floor like a kid at Christmas. Gift after gift was passed her way. A candle and lotion set from a cousin, a gift card from their aunt and uncle, a trendy succulent planter from a friend. Their parents gave her a set of mid-range wireless earbuds, probably around $50. Nothing flashy, just thoughtful. Then came Erin's turn. "Ooh, now Erin's," Amber chirped, reaching for the teal-wrapped package. Erin's heart gave a small jolt. She watched as Amber tore open the wrapping, then lifted the small box lid. There was a pause, just half a second, but Erin saw it, the hesitation, the flicker in Amber's eyes before she slapped on a frozen smile. "It's a silver bracelet," Amber said, holding it up with 2 fingers. The charm dangled lightly, a delicate silver A. "I remembered you said you wanted more jewelry," Erin said quickly. "And the charm, well, it reminded me of you." Amber let out a sharp laugh that pierced the hum of background conversation. "My sister got me this cheap bracelet for my birthday," she said loudly, as if she were announcing it to a courtroom. "Erin, are you serious? Are you out of your mind?" Silence. All eyes turned to Erin. She could feel the heat in her face as her throat tightened. "Amber, we all agreed. No expensive gifts, remember?" she said, her voice shaking. "You got me a scarf for my birthday. Mom and Dad gave me mugs. This is exactly what we all decided on." Amber rolled her eyes. That was just a suggestion, not some rule carved in stone. God, Erin, you're my only sister. You couldn't spend a little more for my birthday? Erin looked to her parents, hoping for backup. Instead, her mom folded her arms and frowned. Your sister does have a point, she said. This is her birthday, Erin. You could have made an exception. She felt her stomach drop. The bracelet slipped from Amber's fingers, hit Erin's chest, and clattered to the floor. I don't want your beggar's gift, Amber snapped. I deserve better than this. And just like that, Erin realized something brutal but true. They would always take Amber's side, no matter what. She bent down, picked up the bracelet, and clutched it tightly in her palm. I think, she began, ready to stand her ground, but her father stepped in, voice low and stern. Don't make a scene, he hissed. Pack your things and leave. So she did. No yelling, no drama, just silence and a quiet promise to herself. You will not make me small anymore. And 2 weeks later, when her family found out she had bought a beautiful new apartment without saying a word, let's just say they weren't the ones holding the power anymore. 2 days after that humiliating birthday party, something in me shifted. The tears had already come and gone. What was left wasn't sadness anymore. It was clarity. I'd spent 29 years playing the role of the good daughter, the responsible one, the peacekeeper. But what had it ever gotten me? A bruised heart and a box on the floor. It was time I started living for myself. That Monday, I wrapped up work early and drove across town to meet Ethan, my realtor. The sky had turned that soft shade of late afternoon gold as I pulled into the tree-lined streets of Henderson Heights, a neighborhood I had always admired but assumed was out of my reach. Ethan was already waiting out front. He gave me a reassuring smile as he gestured toward a red brick building with tall windows framed in black steel. Converted warehouse, he said. Really solid bones. It just hit the market Saturday. I thought of you immediately. We took the elevator to the 3rd floor. The second the door opened and I stepped inside, something just clicked. The apartment wasn't at all what I'd imagined myself in. It was better. High, exposed wood beam ceilings, natural light pouring in through huge corner windows, a spacious open floor plan that blended the kitchen, dining, and living areas seamlessly. Rustic concrete countertops, a weathered kitchen island that looked like it had a story of its own. It felt alive. You said you were looking for something newer, Ethan said, but this place, it just has soul. He was right. It wasn't sleek or shiny. It wasn't polished like Amber's showroom-style apartment. But it felt real, like me. He showed me the rest. A cozy bedroom with another oversized window, a walk-in closet I could have done a cartwheel in, and a bathroom with a clawfoot tub I could already imagine sinking into after long days, and just off the living room, a balcony big enough for 2 chairs and a planter box of herbs. How fast can we make an offer? I asked. Ethan chuckled. I was hoping you'd say that. By Friday, my offer was accepted. The seller had been relocated overseas and needed to close quickly. Everything moved at lightning speed. Loan paperwork, home inspection, appraisal. It was overwhelming and exhilarating all at once. I didn't tell anyone, not my mom, not my dad, and definitely not Amber. They'd made it clear what they thought of me. I figured they didn't need to know anything more than that I was done playing the scapegoat. Instead, I shared the news with people who had shown up for me, my best friend Carla, a few close coworkers, and my sweet neighbor from my current building who'd offered to help me pack. Their excitement matched mine, and for once, I didn't feel like I had to downplay my joy to make someone else comfortable. Moving day arrived on a crisp April morning. I rented a U-Haul and with help from friends, loaded it up with every piece of my independence. My IKEA dresser, my thrifted kitchen table, the espresso machine I'd bought to celebrate a promotion last year, all of it found a new home in that warehouse apartment that somehow felt made just for me. That first night, we celebrated with pizza, wine, and laughter that echoed off the bare walls. I didn't have curtains yet. The rug I wanted was still in my shopping cart. But it didn't matter. I had space. I had peace. I had finally done something for me. Over the next few weeks, I made the apartment mine. I hung artwork I'd collected over the years. I ordered a sturdy farmhouse dining table and splurged on a deep navy sectional that wrapped around the living room like a hug. I even found the perfect antique bar stools for the island at a flea market for $50 a pair. One night, while organizing books on a shelf, my hand brushed the silver bracelet. The one Amber had called beggarly. The A charm sparkled in the lamplight. I smiled. I was done measuring my worth by someone else's approval. 2 weeks after I moved in, I hosted a housewarming party. Nothing fancy, just finger foods, a few bottles of wine, and a signature cocktail I named after my new street, the Warehouse Whisper. I invited the people who had stood by me, who respected me, who made me feel safe. And that list didn't include a single member of my family. We laughed, we toasted, we snapped Polaroids that I later stuck on my fridge. For the first time in years, I felt like I was home, not just in my apartment, but in my own skin. The next morning, I posted a few pictures online. Just snapshots. The sunset through my big windows, my new bookshelf, a photo of me with my arms thrown around Carla and Greg, laughing mid-toast. That's when the phone rang. My mom's name lit up the screen like a red warning light. I didn't pick up. 10 minutes later came the text. When were you going to tell us you bought an apartment? I stared at it for a long while before responding. I wasn't. The silence that followed said everything, because for once, they were the ones left speechless, and I was the one finally in control. The morning of the housewarming party arrived with that soft, golden glow you only get in early May. I stood in my kitchen, barefoot, hair pulled into a loose braid, adding sliced lemons to a pitcher of sparkling water. My playlist hummed softly in the background, and for the first time in a long while, I felt whole. No pressure to impress, no anxious calls to explain myself, just peace. My kind of peace. I took a slow lap around the apartment, adjusting a throw pillow here, a candle there. My new sectional sofa, a deep navy L shape with oversized cushions, anchored the space beautifully. The rustic dining table I'd splurged on sat proudly under a vintage chandelier I'd found at a local flea market. It had taken me hours to hang it straight, but it was worth every second. A little after 5 p.m., the first knock echoed at the door. Carla arrived, holding a tiny rosemary plant in a white ceramic pot. "For your windowsill garden," she grinned, "symbol of new beginnings." "Come in," I said, stepping aside with a smile that came easier than it had in months. Over the next hour, the apartment filled with warm voices, familiar laughter, and clinking glasses. People wandered from room to room, complimenting the exposed beams, the cozy reading nook I'd carved near the balcony door, and, of course, the walk-in closet. Everyone raved about the natural light. I had prepped a small buffet on the kitchen island, deviled eggs, mini quiches, meatballs and barbecue sauce, and a fruit tray I may or may not have arranged to look like a flower. My signature cocktail, the Henderson Sunset, a mix of grapefruit juice, vodka, and elderflower liqueur, was a hit. We toasted to new beginnings, to independence, to moving forward, not looking back. And yet, in the quiet moments between conversations, I caught myself wondering, would they have cared if they'd been invited? My mother, my father, Amber, Would they have even noticed? I shook off the thought as Greg, one of my coworkers, handed me a sleek box wrapped in silver paper. "Housewarming gift," he said. Inside was a set of beautiful hand-blown wine glasses, elegant and sturdy, just like I hoped to be. As the night wore on, we took Polaroids and stuck them to the side of my fridge. One showed me and Carla mid-laugh, heads thrown back. Another captured the group raising glasses with the city lights twinkling through the windows behind us. I felt something shift in me, a kind of closure I hadn't realized I needed. The next morning, with my head slightly foggy from wine and joy, I posted a few photos to social media. Nothing dramatic, just a quiet celebration of a chapter I'd written on my own terms. By Monday afternoon, my phone lit up. "When were you going to tell us you bought an apartment?" It was from my mother. I stared at the screen, thumb hovering. Then I typed back, "I wasn't." It didn't take long for the fallout to begin. Amber called within the hour. I let it ring, twice. Then the texts came, fast and furious. "So you can afford a whole apartment but gave me a $100 bracelet? You owe me a real gift now, Aaron. I want $5,000. Mom's crying, Dad's furious. What is wrong with you?" It was so absurd. I actually laughed. Alone in my kitchen, coffee in hand, I chuckled at the audacity. They didn't reach out after the birthday blow-up. They didn't check if I was okay. But now that they'd seen I'd moved on, thrived without them, suddenly I was worth their attention again. The entitlement was suffocating. By that evening, I'd received messages from 2 uncles, a cousin I hadn't spoken to since college, and even my childhood piano teacher, who apparently still talks to my mom. Each message carried the same theme. Family is everything. Forgive and forget. Don't burn bridges. But none of them had been there when I'd sat crying on the floor of my studio apartment after being kicked out for giving a bracelet with a charm. I spent the next day drafting 3 emails, one to Amber, one to Mom, and one to Dad. I was calm but firm. I explained that I needed space, that until they could acknowledge how they had treated me, not just at the party, but for years, I didn't want contact. No more guilt, no more manipulation, no more rewriting history. Then I hit send and exhaled. For the first time in years, I felt like I wasn't chasing anyone's approval. I was standing still, on solid ground, in my own home, built on my own terms. 2 days passed, no response. Then, on Saturday morning, someone banged on my door. Hard. I peeked through the peephole and felt my stomach twist. There they were, Mom, Dad, and Amber, standing on my welcome mat like they belonged. I didn't open the door, not yet, not until I was ready. We might have overreacted, my dad admitted, finally breaking the silence with a tone that suggested he thought that should be the end of it. I folded my arms and stared at the 3 people standing in my living room like they owned the place. My mother, with her disapproving squint, taking in my furnishings as if searching for flaws. Amber, arms crossed, lips curled in disdain. And Dad, ever the mediator, trying to downplay weeks of emotional warfare as a simple overreaction. "No," I said firmly. "You didn't just overreact. You humiliated me, and not a single one of you reached out until you saw I'd moved on without you." Amber scoffed and flopped onto my couch like it was hers. "Please, all this drama over a bracelet." I turned to face her. "This isn't about the bracelet. This is about the years of being treated like the backup daughter, the afterthought, the one expected to keep the peace no matter how many times you pushed me aside." My mom opened her mouth, but I raised a hand. "You came into my home uninvited," I continued. "You didn't come here to make peace. You came here to make me feel guilty for not including you in something I built on my own, because for once, I didn't need your approval." "Aaron," my dad said, his voice low and sharp. You can't just cut off your family because of one bad night. I shook my head. It wasn't just one night, Dad. It's been a lifetime of moments like that. I used to believe that family meant unconditional love. But love doesn't come with insults, manipulation, or price tags. They stared at me like I'd grown 2 heads. Amber stood up abruptly. I knew this was a waste of time, she snapped, grabbing her purse. She's clearly lost it. She brushed past me toward the door. Mom followed close behind, but paused just before leaving. You've made your point, Aaron. I just hope when the dust settles, you realize how much you've hurt this family. The only thing I regret, I replied quietly, is not setting boundaries sooner. And with that, they were gone. The door clicked shut behind them, and I stood in the stillness of my home. My home. For a moment, I expected the familiar weight of guilt to creep in, but it didn't. Instead, I felt relief, clean and powerful. Over the next week, I heard from nearly every relative I had. Cousins I hadn't spoken to since high school. An aunt who only reached out when she needed a place to stay during a layover. The messages all followed the same script. Your mom is devastated. Amber didn't deserve that kind of treatment. Family comes first, Aaron, always. But here's the thing they didn't get. Family should come first, but not at the cost of your dignity, not when coming first means being treated like you come last. Carla invited me over for dinner the following weekend. I brought wine and my favorite casserole dish. Over her kitchen table, I poured out everything. The confrontation, the texts, the attempted ambush. You're not crazy, she said, handing me a fork. You're healing. I smiled, but the truth was, I needed to hear that more than I realized. For so long, I had doubted myself, questioned every reaction, every emotion. But now, for once, I was starting to trust my own instincts again. Still, the silence from my parents lingered. Weeks passed. Summer crept in with longer days and warm, golden evenings. I started walking to the cafe on the corner for iced coffee and people watching. I joined a book club. I planted basil and lavender in balcony planters and started every morning sipping tea with the sun on my face. Slowly, joy became routine. Then, one afternoon in mid-July, my inbox pinged with a message from Amber. Subject line, I've been thinking. I hesitated before opening it, expecting sarcasm or another guilt trip. Instead, I found something else entirely. I've been in therapy, she wrote. At first, I thought it was just to vent about you, but my therapist helped me see some patterns, especially when it comes to how I treat people I'm close to. I'm not ready to say I was wrong about everything, but I'm starting to understand your perspective a little more. If you're open to it, I'd like to talk. I stared at the screen, unsure how to feel. It wasn't an apology, not really, but it was a start. A sign of self-awareness I'd never seen from her. So I replied, briefly, coffee, neutral place, just a conversation. We met that Saturday at a cafe halfway between us. It was awkward, no hugging, no fake cheer. But Amber listened more than she talked. She admitted that being the favorite had made her blind, that she had resented me for being stable, for making good choices, for not needing attention the way she did. And then, without fanfare, she looked me in the eye and said, "The bracelet was beautiful. I was just being cruel." I blinked, surprised. Not because of what she said, but because it actually felt sincere. It wasn't a miracle fix. We didn't suddenly become best friends. But something shifted, a crack in the wall we'd spent decades building. As for my parents, their silence continued. No acknowledgement, no reflection. And honestly, that's okay, because I've learned that sometimes peace isn't about fixing broken things. It's about walking away before they break you. I settled into a rhythm in my new home as summer faded into a crisp New England fall. The leaves outside my apartment turned fiery shades of amber and crimson, and every morning brought the warm scent of cinnamon from the bakery down the street. It was the kind of quiet joy I hadn't known I was missing, the kind that doesn't demand attention but fills the room like sunlight. I replaced the mental noise of my family's drama with softer sounds, the crackling of candles in the evening, pages turning in whatever novel sat on my coffee table, the hum of jazz from the speakers in my kitchen. Every corner of my home reflected me, not the version they tried to mold, but the one I had chosen to become. The texts from my parents eventually became less frequent, fading into benign, surface-level check-ins. Things like, just made your favorite casserole, wish you were here. Spotted this sweater in town, thought it looked like something you'd wear. It would have been sweet if it hadn't come after months of silence and gaslighting. I didn't ignore them completely. I replied with short, polite responses. No warmth, no anger. Just distance. The kind that had taken me years to claim. Meanwhile, Amber stayed true to form. I never heard from her directly again, but I saw the breadcrumbs she left online. Vague posts about narcissistic relatives, entitled siblings, and one particularly memorable gem. Some people buy apartments when they can't buy love. Charming. Still, I didn't bite. Let her scream into the digital void. I was too busy living. By October, I was hosting book club nights, baking again, even going on dates. None serious, just good company and laughter over burgers and shared fries. I started volunteering at a local animal shelter on weekends. There was a peace to it, a rhythm, a life built deliberately, not out of obligation, but out of joy. Then, one Saturday morning, I got an email. The subject line, from Dad. I hesitated before opening it, already bracing myself for guilt, or worse, denial. But to my surprise, it read, Your mother told me about the dinner invitation and your reply. I didn't understand it at first, but I've been thinking about what you said that day. I may not have agreed, but I heard you. I hope you know that. That was it. Short, sincere, maybe. Or maybe it was just a crack. Small enough to test the water, but not big enough to let change flow through. I didn't reply right away. I sat with it for a few days, unsure whether it was the beginning of something, or just another attempt to avoid responsibility. In the meantime, I called Carla. She listened as I read the email aloud, then paused before answering. You know, she said, sometimes a crack is the start of a door opening, but you're under no obligation to walk through it unless you want to. And that was the key. Not guilt, not fear. Choice. The I finally replied a week later. I thanked him for his message and told him it meant something to be heard, even if just a little. But I made it clear. Until there was genuine reflection, especially from Mom and Amber, I wasn't ready to re-enter that space. I had fought too hard for my sanity to hand it over out of sentiment. By Thanksgiving, I had my answer. My parents hosted the usual dinner, photos, and all. Everyone smiling around a table dressed in fall-themed centerpieces and too much wine. I wasn't in any of the pictures, and no one mentioned me, not even in passing. And you know what? That was okay, because that Thursday, I hosted my own Friendsgiving. My apartment smelled like rosemary and roast chicken. My kitchen table held mismatched chairs, and my guests brought casseroles in foil-covered dishes with scribbled Post-it labels. We played board games, toasted to found family, and laughed until my sides hurt. Carla raised a glass toward me mid-meal and said, "To Erin," for finally putting herself first. The table erupted in cheers, and I felt something I hadn't in years, belonging. Not the kind that's handed to you because you share bloodlines, but the kind you build, slowly, intentionally, with people who see you, value you, and meet you where you are. Winter came, and with it, snow flurries and cozy nights under fleece blankets. My apartment sparkled with twinkle lights, and every evening I'd curl up with a mug of tea and feel deeply, quietly free. It had taken a silver bracelet, a slammed door, and a whole lot of silence to get here. But I was no longer chasing apologies from people unwilling to give them. I had stopped asking for a seat at a table where I was only ever served judgment. Because in the end, family isn't just who shares your last name, it's who shows up, who listens, who respects your boundaries, and stays when the applause stops. And that's the kind of love worth holding on to. The months rolled on, and life began to settle into something steady, something mine. I spent lazy Sunday mornings tending to the little herb garden I'd started on my balcony. Basil, rosemary, and mint thriving in the soft morning sun. Tuesday evenings were reserved for book club at the cafe around the corner, where laughter was loud, opinions were strong, and no one cared if you dog-eared your pages. I even started casually dating someone, a kind, soft-spoken architect I met through a coworker who made me laugh without trying too hard. Meanwhile, my family continued to reach out, but always in the same way. Invitations to birthday dinners, vague, thinking of you texts, links to articles they thought I'd enjoy. Surface-level connection without any acknowledgement of the deeper wounds left behind. I responded when I had the energy, polite, short, distant, never cold, but never eager. And still, there were days when I missed it, the illusion of family, holiday dinners, shared traditions, the unspoken comfort of belonging. But then I'd remember what it really felt like. The tension, the guilt, the way I was always shrinking to keep the peace. 6 months after moving in, I received an unexpected email from Amber. The subject line simply read, "I've been thinking." I hesitated before opening it, bracing for sarcasm or blame. But what I found was different. "I've been in therapy," she wrote. "My therapist suggested I might have issues with entitlement and jealousy. At first, I was defensive, but I've started to see how my behavior, especially toward you, might have come from that." It wasn't a full apology, but it was the most self-awareness I'd ever seen from her. We met for coffee that weekend, neutral ground, no expectations. It was awkward. 2 women trying to build a bridge where once there had been a wall. She admitted to resenting my independence, to craving the attention she'd always been handed. And before we left, she added softly, "I'm sorry about the bracelet. It was beautiful. It wasn't perfect, but it was a beginning. As for my parents, I'm still waiting. Maybe they'll come around. Maybe they won't. But I've built a life where peace is no longer a performance. It's my everyday. And that's more than enough." Life application message. Erin's story is a powerful reminder that family is not defined by obligation or blood, but by respect, boundaries, and mutual care. Many of us, especially in middle age, find ourselves trapped in roles we never chose: the peacekeeper, the provider, the good child. We shrink ourselves to fit expectations, fearing rejection if we dare to say no. But there comes a time when preserving your well-being must outweigh preserving appearances. Erin's journey from humiliation to healing teaches us that choosing yourself isn't selfish, it's necessary. Setting boundaries with loved ones can be the bravest act of self-respect, and sometimes distance is the only way to see clearly. Her decision to move forward, to build a home and a life on her own terms, is a testament to quiet strength. This isn't just a revenge story. It's a liberation story. One that urges us to pause and ask, are the people around me lifting me up or holding me back? And more importantly, do I give myself permission to live without guilt, even if it means walking away? Peace isn't something we wait for others to give us. Like Aaron, we must build it ourselves, brick by brick, boundary by boundary.